3 Chapter 2 Switch. Kato was bullied throughout his childhood and adolescence, but he learned to deal with it the best way he could. He respected the bullies as they wished and would accept every single one of their requests, even the weird ones. He was just too afraid to be beaten up and come home with bruises that would just make trouble and worry his father. Even if it was hard for Kato's already low ego, when the bullies asked him to kneel down and clean their shoes, he would do it. When they asked him to give them his lunch, claiming that he didn't need to eat because he was too fat, Kato didn't even respond, even though his stomach was begging for food. But Kato learned too late that if he didn't fight his situation, it would only get worse. One day, while Kato was changing out of his uniform into his gym clothes in the locker room, his normal clothes were stolen by the bullies and thrown into the mud. Without the option of leaving with the gym clothes, he had to go dirty while all the students laughed and yelled at his face. After this and countless other stories, when Kato woke up and saw his new self in the bathroom mirror, he felt his heart pounding like never before. Still, dumbfounded by everything that's happening, he stared at himself for several minutes without taking his eyes off his own face. He was so focused on his new look that he couldn't even realize the several notification windows appearing over his web link as pop-ups in the side of his eyes. The sound would just blink every second and then disappear from the low battery. Kato was not just looking different, with just a blink of his eyes, he became completely different, to the point that it was hard for him to recognize himself. He had grown at least 30 centimeters in height, and almost the entire look of his face has changed. His red hair is shinier than ever, and he had lost much weight, giving him a slimmer, more elegant appearance that blends with his new stature. His eyes, once green, now glow with intensity in a red hue, as if trying to reflect an inner fire not yet perceived. As much as Kato doesn't understand anything about what's happening to him now, as the reason for his look to be exactly like his old avatar, he automatically smiled at his reflection in the mirror, with a happy feeling that he never experienced before. After a couple of minutes of this self-esteem pump, Kato got out of the bathroom, still confused, but walking fast and with rhythmic steps, as if a song is playing in his head. He felt completely different. He was feeling more willing than ever. After leaving the bathroom, a strange problem appeared in front of him. Cockroaches all the way through the walls and ceiling, and even other insects eating the rest of food. Everything was out of place and looked off, as if his old room aged within a second. "Is that a fucking rat?" he said, after hearing a squeak and fast running paws in the darkness of the room. As he walked, the strong smell of rotten flesh floating upon his nose made him almost throw up. Ugh, what happened while I was asleep? Did I forget to put my work clothes in the washing machine? Kato wonders, trying to turn on the light by pressing the switch next to him. Telek asterisk. Even after turning the switch on, nothing happened. Everything was still as dark as before. Nevertheless, he tried again. Telek asterisk. And at the second try, the room remained dark. Tisk. Did the power go out again? Damn, I have to talk to Mr. Fujimiya about the wires. Last week. Kato sighed, and looking at the mass of his place, he tried to take walk, taking care to not step on the creatures crawling upon the floor. With success, he reached the window. Opening it up, it was way stiffer than usual, and closing his eyes, burning from the touch of the brightness of the sun on his face, he felt like it was the first time he was looking to the daylight. Outside the apartment, everything seemed normal as far as it can be. The sky is covered with clouds all the way to the horizon, as it is on most days of the year. His focus was far from the outside world. as he had a bigger issue in front of him, in his apartment. With the help of the sunlight, he realized that everything is a real mess. The mouse herd was chewing one of the cockroaches while trying to hunt some of the remaining that walked all over the floor. At the door, hundreds of papers clog the mailbox to the point of overflowing, and a thick layer of dust covers every inch of the floor and furniture. Confused and without understanding everything, Kato was startled. He couldn't understand why his apartment is so messy, as he remembers everything being in perfect order before he began his gaming the night before. Running out of options, Kato stretches his head and starts to think about how to clean up the apartment before he checks to see what the problem was with the electricity. Probably that damn rat tore the garbage bags and that attracted the cockroaches, Kato said, approaching the rodents in front of him. In his mind, maybe the apartment was already very dusty the whole time and he just didn't notice it. As soon as the red-haired boy's shadow covers the rat stops trying to eat the cockroaches. The rats look at Kato with a frightened face and immediately start to run towards a cupboard in the small kitchen where there was a hole through which it could escape, but Kato moves surprisingly fast and catches it by the tail. Holding the rat on his hands, Kato smiled. And at the same, got confused as he realized that he was much faster and smoother than usual. In fact, this time, he didn't even have to strain to get down, nor did his back hurt. What was that? He asks himself mentally. A little skeptical. Was that just because I lost a few pounds? Looking to the creature in his hands, he felt a strong pain in his stomach and his vision blurs. In an instant, Kato was on his knees on the ground, stunned. He felt like something was away from him. He was not understanding this deep feeling of hunger. But while he is on the ground holding the mouse, a new message from his web link appears before his eyes. This time he can see it clearly. Do you want to sell the creature, Urban Mouse, to the merchant? 4 Chapter 3 Shopping. Do you want to sell the creature, Urban Mouse, to the merchant? Looking at the rat in his hands and at the message next to the squeaky little creature, Kato was completely confused by what was happening to him. Reading that message, his mind still couldn't understand the meaning of it. He has never received such a screen on his web link before and could hardly believe that what he was seeing was real. Still, his eyes widened in surprise as his body got tenser and his mind wondered if it was really a dream or not. With one of his hands, he reached the button and unconsciously touched yes, realizing that the floating window was not just an illusion, as the mouse in his hand suddenly shattered into golden particles. With a strange sound in his ears, another window popped up. You have received 10 bronze coins from the merchant. Do you want to open the merchant's shop? Inside his chest, Kato's heart started beating faster as his breathing quickly got deeper, and even after blinking his eyes and rubbing his hands over his face, the message was hanging there, floating in front of his face. With a surprised look on his face, his eyes glowed, not believing what he was reading. This is crazy, he said aloud, even without knowing what to do or how to react to this strange situation. It's just like in the game, he said while staring at the floating message midair. The text and everything in the interface was precisely like the ones from selling items on the markets of Mortal Tower. But that's impossible, isn't it? Kato wonders. Kato felt a shiver run down his spine, as he couldn't explain what was happening after he opened his eyes. But deep inside his chest, he could feel that something huge happened to him while he was unconscious. After pressing the yes button, this time, to open the merchant shop, at the same time, his stomach rumbles, as if a big hole is consuming him. A shiny new window appears in front of his eyes, and with this mixture of curiosity, fear, and nostalgia. He was not knowing how to react. The window displays two lists of items for sale, divided into two sections. The section on the left is for seasonal items, and there is a 72-hour countdown to loading, but what caught his attention was the section next to it, a long list of normal items. His eyes quickly scanned the options that range from fruit and bread to more elaborate items. The temptation to satisfy his hunger was almost irresistible, but to the left, among the seasonal items, one of them caught his attention. Beginner's Manual, if I'm not mistaken. That was an item that was only available in the first few days in Mortal Tower, he said out loud. Item: Beginner's Handbook. Description: a comprehensive guide for the newly awakened as they seek to understand and master their new skills. This is exclusive content with valuable tips for beginners in this new world and a limited edition available for 72 hours only. Reading the word, newly awakened. Kato's eyes widen again and things finally begin to make sense. However, some things still don't add up, like the fact that Kato never had lethargic encephalitis to become an awakened, or was he infected and didn't realize it? Kato had been feeling more tired than usual in the last few days, but he thought that was because he was working hard to earn extra credits at the end of the month, not because he might be infected. Besides, even if Kato was lucky enough to contract encephalitis lethargy, he was always sure that he would be the last person on Earth to succeed in becoming an awakened. After all, less than 1% of the infected were so lucky. There was no way he could be one of those lucky ones, right? Of course, when you realistically consider the whole dystopian setting of his apartment, as well as his brutal physical transformation, and now an extremely Death Tower-like magic shop in front of him, you cannot deny that the adjective newly awakened does not sound as absurd as it should. Kato is fascinated by the manual in the seasonal shop. This item seems to be exactly what he needs right now. He knows he needs to get answers to better understand what is going on around him. And the idea of getting all the guidance from a simple book quickly becomes tempting. After a few seconds, he pressed the buy button and another window popped up. Oh, it's also like in the shop, he said out loud. You have spent 5 bronze coins. You have received a beginner's guide. Suddenly, the manual appears in his hands, with a worn cover and yellowed pages, the size of a small children's bedtime storybook. Kato turns the first page of the book expectantly, and there is only one small word written on a blank page. Hello. He listens as the written word echoes in his mind like a voice. Then other words begin to form. If you are reading this manual, it is because you are part of a select group of individuals who have acquired special abilities. I am your guide, and this manual will help you understand and master your new abilities. First, allow me to clear up any doubts you may have about your role as a newly awakened. When Kato heard the word newly awakened directed at him, he unintentionally dropped the book on the floor. He had a suspicion, but to have it confirmed is still a surprise. Each awakened individual has unique abilities, and so they are divided into classes that serve to separate the awakened into categories, such as warriors, mages, and others. The mysterious voice continues. By the way, your class is villain. Villain, huh, he said, looking at his left hand, which no longer has even a remnant of the chubby hand it once was. Now, things are starting to fall into place. Through this manual, you will learn to explore and hone your abilities to meet the challenges that will come your way. As you progress through this manual, you will find valuable information on how to control your abilities. You will also learn how the threats that exist can affect your destiny and vice versa. Be aware that time is of the essence. The manual is only available for 72 hours, so use it wisely. Dedicate yourself to reading and learning. as it will help you unravel the mysteries of this awakened universe and find your place in it.